Rich, Tennessee Homestead. How the heck are you today? Well, I got some results back in on putting this whole regenerative agriculture thing to rest. Monsanto and their group had just been having cows over it, and the results are out. And they're going to hate this. They're going to hate this. Start with the research was done in cooperation with the American Farmland Trust, the USDA, and the NRCS. And it's a situation where they were going with 4 farms, one in California, an almond grower. Then you had another 2 of them in the Midwest, one in Illinois and one in Ohio. They were both growing soybean and corn. And then one in New York State that grew corn for silage and for crops, sweet corn and alfalfa. Large farms. Okay, these were not little 10-acre test plots. Okay, these are farms. They did put up some conservation money to these people to kind of offset the fears of I could, lose my shirt here. And oh, good grief, yeah. So anyway, let me get this camera straightened out here. Anyway, that's the farms. The Midwest and the New York farmers were already no-till. The almond farmer, from what I understand, was still using strip tillage and continued through the test, which didn't help their numbers out any. Well, basically what they did was went in, put down some compost tea, planted a cover crop after their last harvest. And this has been about a 3 to 4 year project. But they took and put in compost, put down some compost tea, and planted, looking at their soil analysis, picked out a cover crops for it. It was a diverse mix, planted it. Next year, rolled it down, and planted their crops in it. Repeat the process. Okay, went on for several years. And at the end of it all, they went and took a look at the results of, where these farms ended up. And I'm not going to go through the whole long process because it was like year 1, they put in cover crops, did this, and this, and, blah, blah, blah. But they were mainly checking for the soil health, to see how it was doing. Great. Results are in. Okay. Yeah. This camera location is just terrible. Keep wanting to go back to the same spot. Anyway, bear with me. I'll try to stand still. Monsanto and these agronomists and so forth have for years been, the battle cry was even against no-till. No-till means no yields, right? Well, that goes into more play whenever they're looking at going with regenerative agriculture. They think you're crazy. Today's corn and soybean, these things have numerous seed coatings to put microbiology in the ground, to inoculate the seeds for the pathogens and so forth that are in the ground. Just, it's a small fortune. Other than the original GMO was just a plant that could survive and live in Roundup usage. They're cheap because nobody's buying them anymore. Anyway, so to address the no-till, no yields, in these test results, the yields were up, and keep in mind on something, those Midwestern farms and that New York farm, they were in at 100%. So they're the ones who really kind of made out on the deal. But here's where the kicker comes in. Yields through the test range between 2 and 22% of increased yields. Now, what were they using for seed? Just bare minimum, didn't even have the BT gene in it, Roundup ready seed. That's it. Just a bare basic Roundup seed. Cheap stuff, really. Yeah. So right now we've got an immediate cost savings. They're not spending a fortune on seed. Okay. And yet their yields went up. And their yields were already a little bit higher than their county standards. And it still went up. Soil and water runoff off the land. This one will get you. It increased, or was reduced, 40 to 98%. Water wasn't running off. Wasn't washing the soil away. Wasn't taking the nutrients out of the soil. Water was soaking in. I would love to see a drought doing this test to see how those crops did. But 40 to 98% reduction in water runoff. That's pretty impressive. They also checked these farms for the CO2 gases of other farms at different times of the year to see how big of a reduction it's going to be in greenhouse gases, since everybody's losing their mind about greenhouse gases. The reductions in greenhouse gases on these farms, 16 to 560% reduction in CO2. That's a no-brainer. They had something growing on their land all year long. So it's going to take the CO2 out of the air. That's simple. That's about the same as taking about 20 cars off the road permanently to equal that. So, but did the farmers make money? Because that's where the crisis is at right now. I mean, you look around at things, and we're losing a lot of the smaller farmers. We are losing dairies, which is a whole different video. We are losing dairies in this country. Something fierce. Those guys are really taking it on the chin. But did they make money? Well, let's take a standard business term. Return on investment. That's what they were looking at. Return on investment ranged from 35% to 343%. Now, I didn't misquote that. 343% return on investment. That would be a stockbroker's dream come true. All right? That's big money, say, coming in. That's a good investment. You know, Lord, 35% return on investment's not bad. How did they get that? Well, it's very simple. Reduced input cost. They were using a baseline GMO seed. Didn't even have the BT gene in it. Okay? Which, number one, recently they've seen that the BT gene is now worthless in their GMO corn because Mother Nature slapped them back. Here you go, kids. A new bug that just loves BT corn. But that wasn't all the reduced inputs they had. Nitrogen. They reduced nitrogen use 90 to 98% on those farms. Yeah. Now keep in mind, the almond farms still use a tillage and stuff of this nature. So he's hurting their numbers, but 40 to 98% reduction in the amount of nitrogen required. And from what they were saying in the report, they readjusted the last cover crop to bring more nitrogen in the soil form. Phosphorus. They had a 74 to 92% reduction in use. Very little chemical fertilizer being used. The ground's being weaned. Even the USDA was shocked at that. How much it reduced it. So you're talking about, and they're talking as a summary note on the report, that they suspect that within another year to maybe 2 years, that land will now support conventional seed. No more GMO needed. They can go with conventional seed if they can find any. So they're out of the GMO business, pretty much. Regenerative agriculture. Their land's retaining water, which will help protect through droughts. They're building microbiology in the soil. All these things that they said, you can do this. Now they're showing them that they can do it. Okay, and save a lot of money. Putting their farms back in the black. The USDA is also, and these guys were helped out a little bit for the first year. They'd put their farmland under conservation because the first year with the cover crop and so forth, which helped them out some. But they're trying to get that pushed through the federal government now. They're drafting the increased budget where they're wanting to put aside some conservation funds just for farmers wanting to convert over to regenerative agriculture. That they at least be allowed to get into the conservation program while they're rebuilding the soil. Give them a monetary reason to move to, take away that fear of, I'm going to starve to death, you know, kind of thing. And then they're also putting together the financial implications and giving that to banks so that, toss that off to the side, so that these banks can take that into account and start increasing some of the credit lines to help these guys make that adjustment through. Because it's, you know, it's a good 4-year, 5-year program before they're ready to make the big step off into standard conventional cropping. It's there. Absorbs greenhouse gases, which should make everybody but the government happy because they were really looking forward to all that extra tax money. Reduced fertilizer usage by 98% on some of it. Eventually they'll be off the chemical fertilizers altogether. Not good news for the fertilizer industry. Okay? But your inputs on fertilizer. I've heard of farms saving as much as $90,000 a year by not having to put in nitrogen. That's a lot of money to put in your pocket. Okay? It can move some of these farms from in the red into the black. Okay? We don't have to be giving up these farms. We have to re-educate the farmer. We have to let them know you've been lied to. A lot. And the USDA is responsible for a lot of this. And USDA brought us things like mad cow disease and so forth for some of their advice. Okay? Now I think the USDA is finally stepping back and going, hey, let's do the research first. Let's know that we know before we start making these changes out here in these farms. They've all but destroyed American agriculture. We got to fix this, folks. Farmers are going to have to start stepping up and say, we got to find a way out of this. Or they're not going to be here. You're going to have big corporate farms. And I can guarantee those boys are going to straighten it out. Yeah, we'll have regenerative agriculture. Because these biotech companies know anything that they do is temporary. That's it. It's temporary. Nothing's permanent. Mother Nature is not going to let it happen that way. You want permanent, you better do it Mother Nature's way. She'll work with you. Keep trying to fiddle with it. She's going to keep coming back at you. Sooner or later, she's going to get tired of messing with all of us. And then we're going to have some real problems. There you have it. The numbers are in. Can a farm make money by changing their farming practices? Absolutely. And yeah, it takes time because you guys have really screwed it up out there. But you can get your land back and have good, deep, rich, fertile soil courtesy of Mother Nature, not of the local plant. It's time to wake up, folks. It's time to start getting serious. And the case study's in. There's no denying the facts. These boys have done it. I saw an interview with the Ohio farmer, and this guy's on cloud 9. He is truly on cloud 9. It's like, yeah, because he was on the verge. Couldn't make it much not longer than he knew it. But now he can see that his farm can now survive and make money. What a deal. Saved a farm. It's written, Tennessee Homestead. Wake up, folks. Put away the tillage. Put away the chemicals. Let Mother Nature take care of your land. You guys will be way ahead of the game. Love you guys. Appreciate you. Hope this helped you out a little bit. Got another one coming up. Everybody's getting ready for gardens and stuff. Got one coming up on the polypropylene black plastic cover that even I wanted to use. Here in Tennessee, they're now doing this summer. They are doing some testing because they've had some problems. And I've got a video coming up this week that'll tell you about it. Y'all have a great rest of the week. Love and appreciate you. Take care.